Hello and welcome to this episode of Inside Out. My guest tonight is from South Africa. Kimberley in South Africa was known for its diamonds, and there are a lot of mines there. But as it happens everywhere, constant mining ensured that the reserves got depleted. The mining sector might have lost a little bit in Kimberley, but from Kimberley came a young uncut diamond who went on to become the youngest South African to score a century in first class cricket. He followed up later on in life with the highest first class score too. And he happened to have the record of having scored the highest individual score for South Africa in international cricket before Ashim Amla overhauled it and broke that record. You all will remember the stylish middle order batsman who went by the name Daryll Cullinan. He is my guest tonight, and it's my pleasure to introduce Daryll to all of you.
Hi, WV. It's a great honor for me to be with you. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, you always been a gentleman. Very nice of you to say that, and I should thank you for making the time and accepting my invite.
No problem. Only a pleasure.
Daryll, for everybody to get a better sense of what it was like before South Africa came into international cricket, give us the landscape that was prevailing then.
Well, my generation, we grew up in a period. I was born in '67. We were banned from international cricket in 1970. So we never really knew international cricket. There was a full banning on overseas cricket. Not only that, but on television. So the exposure was virtually zero for someone like me. And the intention was never to play international cricket. It suddenly happened. And with that, it was a bit of a scramble, right? This is a new opportunity. But by the time we got back, I was 25. I debuted in January, March. I was 26. If you'd asked me 6 months before, there was zero talk about it. So you were always inclined to play a bit of first-class cricket. I remember particularly at that time, I was actually considering, right, I'd had about 10 years of first-class cricket. It was now time to look for a job. And then suddenly all of it happened. But it's difficult for people to comprehend around the world exactly what that felt like, what it was, and how isolated and insular we were. When I talk to them like this today, they don't really get it. They don't really understand it.
Yeah, I had sort of played with a lot of South Africans in English league cricket, so I used to get a lot of insights from them. They would keep telling me, we would keep exchanging the various things that happened in our respective countries. How competitive was the rebel cricket? It must have been very competitive because a lot of people came in there realizing that they were out of official cricket, which meant that was their only venue for earning their living.
Well, I think the Sri Lankans arrived first. And the day they arrived, the country knew there was a foreign team on our shores. It had been kept so quiet. You can imagine why, for them to have left their home country. And then the next followed. We had the English to come. Then we had the West Indians, we had the Australians. The English came back on a second tour. Obviously, the financial gain was enormous. I think a few of them wrote their own checks, if I could say that. But the fact that we've been starved of international cricket, and let's always remember those who never got the chance, never mind that talent, but we'd had a talented side, likes of Pollock. He was aging and elderly Richards, but we had Barry Richards, we had some really good younger players who'd never got the chance. I think they also kind of felt, look, we've really got a good side, and let's bring some cricket. Look, it all ended controversially, rightly so, but it did give us an opportunity. When the West Indians arrived, again, the day they arrived, we kind of knew when they were here. It's like these guys had sort of fallen out the sky. Where'd they come from? But the excitement was absolutely enormous. And then that for me, was the first time that I got to see live. I grew up in a country town, so I got the opportunity twice to go and see them play in Cape Town with these big names, like Lawrence Roux, and you had Sylvester Clarke, and a few other of the guys who already played for the West Indies, and Gooch and Gatting and that lot, and Tony Apata from Sri Lanka. It was unreal. But sadly, when it came to an end for a cricket lover or anyone who had aspirations, That was about 88. And then it was back to, well, there's never going to be international cricket. But it was hugely competitive. So one or two of those guys stayed behind. Like Graham Gooch, I remember him saying that he felt that this is now a guy who played England, he toured Australia. That South African first-class cricket was the toughest, most competitive cricket he had played. So I think that's the reason why when we got back into national cricket, we held our own and we slotted in right there competing against the very best.
It's unfortunate fans across the world couldn't get to see the likes of Barry Richards or a Graham Pollock or Mike Procter even. When I say even,
Yes.
he's got tremendous numbers in first-class cricket. Just tell us of the memories you have of watching them.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Vivi. I saw Barry play live once, and he can't remember the day. I remember he pulled it back, he dived at mid-wicket, took a brilliant catch. This was at Newlands at Cape Town, came in and batted at 7, and got about 10 or 15. And I, post-playing days, got very friendly with Barry, and he says he still can't remember it. So that was the only time. But Graham, I played a lot of cricket. When I say a lot, when I started playing first-class cricket, Graham would have been 38. And I was playing for Western Province. He was then playing for the Transvaal. And he retired at 42. So I had 4 years of playing against him. And then I played 1 or 2 invitational games with him. And for me, playing and post cricket and watching, he's still, for me, most exciting batsman that I ever saw or played against. I think best probably, I would think Viv Richards, if I could, just not necessarily the games, but just the aura, the excitement. The only guy that I ever saw at Newlands, and we Western Province played Transvaal, that was the big clash. It was like a Liverpool playing Manchester United in football. The only guy I ever saw at Newlands, our home ground, the crowd got up when he walked out to bat and acknowledged him. 5 Rice got booed and that type of thing. They love to have that going with him. But he was a phenomenal player. And then, I mean, Mike Procter, I played one invitational game against him. But they still remain legends for us in our cricket. But at that time, you had another generation behind them. Peter Kirsten, I don't know if you would have played against him in England. I mean, Kenny McEwen, for me, if you see VVS bat, Blacksman bat, you're seeing Kenny McEwen. I think Kenny was maybe slightly a better player. Garth LaRue, there was another guy who played for Sussex, the practice series, both series. He was the man of the series. You had Richards, you had the whole lot there. Garth LaRue from South Africa. The best swing bowler I ever saw played with was Stephen Jeffries. Played for Lancashire for a while. The left arm seamer. Brian McMillan. Then we get on to the great Clive Rice. Very difficult. I often wonder, do I pick Sean Pollock between Clive Rice? For my South African team, I'm not too sure. And we had this talent on the back of the Pollock generation, which I have no doubt. I mean, Peter Kirsten would have been our Alan Board, if I could call it that. Peter would have played at 19. He would have debuted. He got 100 when we got back at 38 against England at Headingley. And he was still scoring hundreds, double hundreds in first-class cricket. So, those were, it was a real pity that, world cricket didn't see the likes of them. And then those that never got the opportunity, as I said, we must always remember that. It's staggering to think potentially how well we could have done or what our potential would have been. But I have no doubt in that 70s, that period till early 80s, 72 to 82, we would have been right up there, the West Indian period then. I'm convinced the South African period would have been just as good.
It is fitting that Clive Rice got to lead South Africa when they came back to international cricket, wasn't it?
It was, and I think he probably should have gone to the 92 World Cup. I think he should have captained there. He should have played. He was still hugely competitive, hugely experienced, and he was a fine cricketer. He in our isolation was one of the great characters. Not forgetting that he played Nottinghamshire with Hadley, so he'd had those 12, 14 years of cricket experience. So we were always grateful that what they brought back, and there were quite a few, even in league cricket, the experience going. We had young guys, Brian McMillan would have started there, Alan Donald would have started there. So they were all coming back. And we got the opportunity to play against these guys, listen to their stories, and watch them and learn, and learn from watching them play.
Another good development as far as South African cricket was concerned was the return of Kepler vessels.
Mm. Yes, Kepler no doubt had a massive impact, because when we were suddenly thrust into international cricket, I remember on our first tour that I went on, look, they went to the World Cup, and then they went to the West Indies and played 2 tests and 2 one-days. And then our next tour, I got in then, we went to Sri Lanka. There were 32 or 33 tests in total, and he had 29 of them. So we arrived in Sri Lanka with the rest of us. There was the 1 or 2 played in the West Indies, were 3 or 4 test matches. But he brought that knowledge. He's a very meticulous man, very organized, a tough competitor. He introduced how does one go about international cricket, what to expect, and he led by example. So yes, massive influence on us, and just getting the picture and idea. And from that, we gained a lot of not only experience but confidence, having him in our presence.
Cronje was earmarked to take over the reins after Kepler vessels. The script went to plan for a long time until that bombshell exploded around 2000. That was unfortunate.
Yeah, it was incredibly sad. So much good he had done, so much in terms of the game, South Africa's reputation, its image. He was a fine cricketer. He was a fine captain. He just led well from the front. He just was the perfect picture, wasn't he? He was your ultimate ambassador. He had the charisma. He had the look. He spoke well. He like very few cricketers I've seen. He grabbed attention whenever he walked in a room. His presence, the whole lot was there. So it was a massive shock for all of us. Obviously, we know what happened, and you can't condone the actions, but I've never condoned the man. We're all human. We've all made our mistakes. No one can profess to be perfect. I'm sure there's still some who gratefully have never been found or discovered or exposed. I'm convinced about that. But his time was good. And I got in and he had played already. He was a wonderful captain for me. He was a good cricket friend. And I'll always be grateful that he showed confidence in me and my game. And whilst he played, I was playing. So I've got a lot to be thankful for his captaincy.
Let's get to your stint in international cricket. How was it watching that partnership between Tendulkar and Azhar in that Cape Town test in '96 on the field?
For me, Sachin is just the most amazing batsman. I mean, in my coaching today, he's always my go-to. Guys, technically, this is the guy. I've spent, I can't tell you how many hours I use drawing tools, compare him to batsmen, and say, just always comes back to him because I couldn't think of a better example. But Azhar was one of my favorite players. Azhar, I'm telling you what, you've seen much more than I have, but just that flamboyant flick. And I was going through a little period, I must tell you this story, a little period where things weren't going well. I wasn't getting runs, and how to get to 100 was bothering me. So I can't remember where it was. So I asked Azhar, what's the secret? Well, what is there about it? And he didn't say much. He just said to me, when it's your day, it's your day. And you know. And it changed a little bit of my outlook in that you just know those days, don't you? Other days it could be out. Other days you nick it. But just stay there. Stay in that moment of it's yours. And just go with it. Just flow with it. And almost eventually kind of got that idea and that feeling for myself that, don't look just if it's missed him or it's dropped short, it's your day. Just keep going. Just keep playing. And the way he just went about it. I mean, for us, we were always considered poor players of spin. We grew up in a country where it wasn't our game. And those first tours of India were so tough for us. Here was a guy, I stood at slip. I always loved to stay in the slip because I had the best house of watching Sachin and Azhar and these guys. Here was a guy that I saw do things that I didn't think was possible, but learned a lot from watching him. Then we had that to get back to that Newlands partnership. I funny enough was watching it the other day a little bit. I don't know why. Because I was watching Sachin, and I'm thinking about, gosh, he stood so far outside leg stump, and he triggered across it. Now this is to Alan. Alan was we always threw Alan at Sachin because we felt we could get him here. And quite frankly, I think of all his records out of India and the one side where I think he averaged early 40s was South Africa. So he played below what he's capable. But I think also in India, Alan got him caught a little bit there. But he stood outside leg and he pressed right onto off stump. And then from there, he made width for himself and he played up there and he worked it across. And him and Azhar just picked it up. And until Sachin got out brilliantly caught, deep square leg by Adam Bacher.
Yeah.
But you know what it was? I don't know if you've experienced. The only other time I've experienced, again, was Azhar, when that 100 he got against us at Eden Park, where Alan, somebody had hit him. And then he went off and he came back. And he smashed Lance Klusner. He hit him for 5-4s and went over. And it was, you know, that feeling, something's got to happen. Either a thunderbolt from heaven or the earth's got to open up. But there's no ways you're going to get the guys out. They were just on a roll. And, you know, the way that Azhar could just rotate the strike, you know, he could walk across, he'd find a gap. He played you more on line than length. And then you had the master who was all technical. I know the bowler said it was so difficult when those two were batting to be able to adjust your line and your length and know exactly what you want to do to each shot, because they play quite differently in many ways. But I mean, that was Newlands. They obviously, like Lords, Eden Gardens. We wanted to go and get 100 Eden Gardens. Newlands is one of those places. And obviously, both, this was a big moment, a big ground for them. And that wicket could be beautiful for batting. And, you know, there's times and moments when you sit back and you think, well, I was privileged to have been there. I might have been on the field playing against them. But that was that was batting at its best. And it was a master display by two quite different players, but equally brilliant on their day.
You watched them do what they did at Newlands, and then you made them watch at Wanderers in the next test.
Yeah. No, I've enjoyed batting at the Wanderers. That was ground I always loved to play it, and it was my home ground for 13 seasons. And I remember one moment I should have got out because Javaka was bouncing me, and then late 60s or 70s, I pulled one. And there, of all people, was Raul Dravid 10, 15 yards off the boundary. And it went over Raul's head. And I thought, thank goodness he was off the boundary, which he shouldn't have been, because that side was fairly short. He should have been right back. Maybe the bowler wanted him there. But it could be a very good batting pitch. But just probably, I think in that time needed more support for just another quick on the other side. You know, I enjoyed my times against India, I must say. It was always challenging.
That's why you have a lot of fans out here, Daryll. That's why you have a lot of fans.
Thank you.
Now, I want to know, what is it that you have against calamari? Because there's a story where you hit a position when someone was frying calamari. What's that story?
Oh, it's quite a funny story. You know, this in the early days we played. Now, this was when we were back in international cricket, so it was early 90s. I was playing for Western Province, and then the start of our one-day season, we play what we called a B-section side. So it was our one-day tournament. They all played. But generally, it was a bit of a warm-up sort of game. You got to play against them. Generally, you beat them, and then the top 6 fought it out. But these were small outgrounds. So everyone would park around the field. They'd pull up with their cars. They'd pull their what we call a scottle, which is like a briar thing, like a barbecue plate. And then they would do their meat and their chicken and seafood and drink lots of beer and blow the hooter on their car, on their horns, on their car, and shout and scream, and the ball would trickle over the boundary, and then you didn't dive because you dive into someone's leg. So it was a real, like a country scene. And Telemarcus was the bowler, and then I pulled it, and I think it landed straight in this guy's hand of oily calamari. And they had to change the ball. I think it's the only time certainly I would probably think the history of cricket where the ball was changed, because it was just a big sod of oily, greasy calamari in oil, which you don't really want to do it like that.
Oh, the smell.
I didn't know at the time. I'll be honest with you. I only found out afterwards.
All right. Now, just as one mate to another, we need to talk about that exchange with Shane Warne. There's so many
Yes, yes.
versions of it. So we want to know what exactly was the exchange.
Oh, I've been asked this so many times. I think when we got back into before my first tour of Australia, I just got that 300, which was the highest first class score in South Africa. So we had arrived there, and again, so naive. I did an interview with an Australian media guy. But this went back. But like the Australians, they like matchups. They're brilliant at that, aren't they? Now, this is what you learn and understand in hindsight and afterwards. I kind of gathered that, and I was one that never read. By then, I never read the media. I didn't read newspapers. I decided that there's no benefit in that. So I completely there, and I was very guarded in terms of giving interviews and that type of thing. So I don't know what he had said or put in there, but I kind of sensed I got there that there was this massive, right, it's Warne and Cullinan. I started off badly. Then we got into the test and he got me out with a flipper. Then I was his bunny. Then it became a joke. Then it was banners around the field. I'd hate to live in the world today of social media. I cannot imagine what it would have been like. And I never did an interview. They always were wanting to do interviews. What could I say to them? Come on, guys, what am I going to say to you that you want to hear? And as that got worse, so the anti. So look, I mean, I wasn't going to be one that was going to stand back. So I would play on his vanity. So make a few points about his look and his weight and this and that. And he took a distinct disliking to that. It was a bit of a sore point for him. But people forget, I must say this in my defense, is that my one-day record against Australia is quite good. It's above satisfactory, which I never get credit for. But in all honesty, I think the hype was more created outside of that. He had said a few things, so the media kind of take it, and I had responded in that. But he won. Look, in Test cricket, it was a massive disappointment for me because that was the big challenge of the day, and I failed. That's life. But then I'd gone again, and I failed again on the second tour. I thought by then I would have perhaps improved.
A few off days with other deeds of yours, Daryll. Don't worry about it. You're a well accomplished batsman. I tell you that much.
Thank you. But I must say, it's quite interesting now in my coaching years, Vivi, that if I look back on it, I refused to play into the spin. I wasn't a sweeper of the ball. And if I had my time over, and it's a conversation I had with Martin Crowe, just before he died, we did an assignment together for Cricket Info in India. And we spoke about it one night, just the two of us. And he said he looked to sweep Warne every ball as a right-hander. I said, that was just so against the I was taught. You play straight, you play with the spin. But it's the whole story, get him off his length. And if you think back, the guys that did play him well were able to sweep him, get him off his length and his line and all of that sort of stuff. And now today, when I coach kids, it's one of the first shots I teach them. Into the spin. Into the spin, we know you've got to be a bit cautious. That's not as easy as it sounds. But even if it's just knocking it for one. So, I've kind of taken that experience and help, kids today with it. But it was fun. If anything, I'll be remembered for. It's just uncanny that my name always comes up whenever he kind of thinks of South Africa. So I don't know. I don't quite know why, but that's him.
Now, let's talk about South African cricket. The policy of selecting 5 players from a particular sort of area or wherever. What has come out of it?
Yeah, it's a very, you're either for it or you aren't. The whole transformation where you've got to have a certain amount of black players, first class level, at a 19 under 17 level. Where it's straight, you 6 players of color, it's probably going to be 7 soon, 4 have to be black, African players, and so it's gone on. So look, I mean, it falls in line with the whole transformation policy of the government. As I say, it's controversial. It depends which way you see it. But the good thing of anything is that we keep producing good talent. But for me, the issue is more how that talent is nurtured and what we expose in it too. So I sadly see a lack of cricket wisdom, past experience in our coaching structures, even at junior levels. That's where it bothers me more. But it is what it is. And the reality is that the future of the game in this country is with your black kid and your colored kid. Just look at population numbers, projected growth. That is where the game, the future, and that's how we're going to have to be competitive. And we can be. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I've, for 20 years, been coaching kids from as young as 5. No one is ever going to tell me we don't have the talent. But I don't think we're doing enough about it. And I think we've kind of woken up a little bit too late. But there's historical issues. The whole apartheid system, segregated living areas, access to good facilities, a poor public transport system. So those legacies are always going to be a problem for us. It was always about taking the black kid out of his natural environment and township and putting him into the so-called better, which are traditionally white cricket in schools. Now that's taking particular talent, but we're not exposing the game at grassroots level to the masses. As I said, there's lack of space. There's lack of the schools built in the apartheid era were compounds. They weren't built with fields. They weren't. There's all these historical issues which have impacted. But now there's a move towards we need to take the game to the people and building it up from those areas. So upskilling the coaching, upskilling the talent in that. But it's a big challenge. It's exposed us. I must be honest with you. I'm concerned about our depth. I'm concerned about the quality of our cricket, our competitiveness. The days of teams arriving in South Africa and except by Australia, we were going to win. Now, if you're not winning well at home or so confident, that's the problem. Touring now, it's quick. It's you got to get in. You don't have time to climatize, play yourself in. That's why that first test is always a tough one for touring sides. They don't sort of get a chance to prepare like we did. But touring sides arriving in your home country and you sort of not sure if you're going to beat them. Like Sri Lanka, we beat them well now, but they beat us last time we were here. They were here. That bothers me. So at home, when we're starting to not be competitive, that's big warning bells. Hang on, what's going on here? But it is what it is, and it's a tough one to manage because ultimately you've got excellence and opportunity. Can you marry excellence and opportunity? No, you can't. You're either about excellence or opportunity. And it's always been, well, we can. But you can't really, can you?
What is going on with Cricket South Africa? All this confusion and chaos, is it caused by people with vested interests or is it coming out of financial issues? What is the cause for all this?
Well, I would think that leadership's an issue. I think people equipped to do the job. I mean, they've recognized that. They've recognized and stated that, like the previous CEO and 1 or 2 people weren't qualified enough to do the job. They were out of their depth. Appointments were procedures and weren't followed. Just the governance in terms of transparency and going by governance rules and regulations were not followed. So what does that tell you? It tells you that people are there. What are actually their real interests? Are they political? There's been financial irregularities in the whole story. It's an absolute mess. And they've constantly, it comes back to this where the provinces, boards, then provinces call them states, then nominate people to sit on executive, non-executive level, outside expertise coming in who are wonderful at their job at executive level to advise lawyers, doctors, judges, and whatever. But ultimately in that, the cricket mix and understanding, that's also got to be there to a point, but it's not. So I think it's a whole mismatch of different agendas from political to personal gain. And invariably, every single cricket board that I've seen, there's always infighting, there's egos, there's clashes. That's par for the course. That's what you expect. I'm from the north, you from the south. So now everything like that's got to be managed. But I think it's ultimately has boiled down to lack of strong leadership, vision, and understanding. And it's caught up with them. And how it all started was financial irregularities, like often it does. Oops, something's gone wrong here. Where's the money? And now the digs got deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's been hugely embarrassing. It's been hugely embarrassing. And it's sad. It's sad for me to see the state that it's in because it doesn't need to be.
As I remember, South African rand, it was 2 rands to a pound in the mid 80s. And South
Yes.
Africa has been a great country in terms of the resources, in terms of the scenic beauties, as a tourist spot. Do you think South Africa has gone where it should have been as a country?
Well, there's been massive challenges. Let's not forget that it was a very exclusive under apartheid, white controlled and white looked after population. Today it stands at just short of 5 million. Then it would have been probably about 3. And then you've got 55 million people. So readdressing the imbalances of the past, poverty, opportunities, exposure at all levels, economically, schooling, sport, it's all one approach to everything. And with that, I guess the pie has now got to be spread, got to be cut a lot smaller to cater for everyone's needs. But there's no doubt that certain things are struggling. Our healthcare system, our schooling system, our infrastructure problems, those remain due to corruption, due to poor management. Those are pressing issues which are really starting to reach a boiling point in this country. So, as a country, yes, a lot of it has been very good. We've welcomed a lot of international investment, a lot of international visitors, touring sites. But I think ultimately the delivery of the basics for the man on the street is under a lot of pressure at the moment, and that's got to rest at the highest level, right? Or how are they doing it? What are they doing it for? And there's just been massive corruption being exposed at the highest of levels. So one can go on and on for hours. But it's fair to say that I think all South Africans are generally disgruntled and concerned about where it's going because we have massive resources. The reality is that this country can comfortably support all its people. That we've always known. But we're not in India with massive amounts of people. We've still got some of the most valuable mineral resources in the world still existing in South Africa. Tourism, I mean, you've been here. It's a beautiful country. The most diverse country, I think, and this is often expressed, most diverse country in such a small space. We can get to just about everything. You can see the best of kind of everything. We just don't have snow-capped peaks for 4 months of the year. That's the only thing we don't have. But it's very, very accessible. And we have a lot of Indian tourists, I must tell you. A lot of people from India visit here. They love coming here.
Of course.
Yes.
Is it also being translated in cricket as well? South Africa has had great talent. They have got competitive cricketers. But there's been some constant faltering in the knockout stages of major tournaments. Why do you think that has been happening?
I don't think that's been a talent thing. I think we've perhaps battled, and I think the chokers tag was relevant for 1 or 2 World Cups. The last World Cup we simply weren't good enough. I think in 2015, New Zealand took us out. I don't think our cricket thinking was correct there. 2007 in the Caribbean, we blew it against Australia. We, for strange reason, decided to take on McGrath. Saw Callis play step outside leg and try and hit him over point on a low wicket. It was uncharacteristic. So there again, was that cricket thinking? Was that a choke? We just kind of, they seem to have a belief that they must take McGrath out the attack. I was there. I commentated on the game. We were 4-5 down, game over. So I think it was a mixture of that and also smart, intelligent cricket. Are we developing smarter, younger, better cricketers from a young age? This is what I would question today. What are we exposing them to? Look at New Zealand. They always, punching above their weight. They strike me as smart cricketers. They're able to think on their feet. And I don't think that's been a very good characteristic. I think a lot of that's got to do with our upbringing. very tough, competitive guys in your face. But I don't think we've been very, very smart under pressure. So that's where I kind of leave it at. I think that development starts younger as you bring it through the system. Able to teach your cricketers how to think under pressure. That's hugely important. If I had a role to play, a hand to play in it today, in terms of our development, that's a massive area I would focus on. Because I don't think we do not have a talent issue. I don't think we'll ever really have a talent issue. But I don't think we've ever been really smart cricketers.
So interesting you talk about that. If you were involved, are you involved at all in this bid to revive in South African cricket?
No. I've expressed an interest to be involved, but no one's taken it up. My era, my sort of guys are generally frowned upon. We're the old timers, and we're the result of the past. And it's been said, no, he's a has been. What can he teach us? That type of thing. But the reality is, Evie, that knowledge is easy today. Knowledge you can find, knowledge you can teach. Anyone can be smart on cricket today. And a lot of these guys I see coach are incredibly very, very knowledgeable, which is hugely important. But you can't teach wisdom, can you? Wisdom comes from experience. Wisdom comes from a lot of cricket, a lot of failures, a lot of understanding. And we've kind of neglected that wisdom and experience. I think we've gone through a period, even in world cricket, where they'll look at the CV. But I also point fingers at past players like me and say, well, you guys haven't also upskilled yourself on the soft side, the softer skills, the personal skills, the people skills, the knowledge. That's why you give me a lot of wisdom with incredible amount of knowledge. I always take that guy. So we mustn't sit back as ex-cricketers and moan, look at these guys, they haven't played the game. They've never how can they coach it? We've only got ourselves to blame. Because I've seen them, they present incredibly well, these guys. But I always say, the young player looks you in the eye, looks me in the eye. And he looks a very knowledgeable guy that hasn't been there. And you look at him and you say, my son, I understand how you're feeling. I can know he's going to trust you, isn't it? So much of it is trust. Isn't it? Trust. But he'll listen to that guy. But when it comes to those moments,
experience is something that can never be bought from anywhere. It has to be gained over a period of time. Now, let's set aside the fact that you're not involved in the system. Where do you see South African cricket heading now?
Well, I made the call 2 years ago. I said we won't qualify for the next World Cup. That's my belief. We won't see South Africa in the next World Cup. I say that because the qualification system now, it's now a knockout. You're not due to your test status guaranteed. It's not a case of the top 7 or 8. Then you get the 2 associates. Everyone plays everyone for the next one, and the top 10 go through. We were 8th the last time. And Bangladesh taught us a cricket lesson. And we seem to be not getting there. My only consideration is, since with Brexit, our cold pack players are going to be back. Are we going to select them? Is everyone going to just, put their pride in their pocket and say, I'm available? 1 or 2 stayed on. They've just been signed up now as overseas players. But a guy like Abbott came back and he's now playing domestically. Technically, he can play for South Africa. But also, are we going to be smart enough? Are we going to be good enough? With our selection process, are players going to be right at the right time? I think there's a few things happening here, which to me suggests, which tells me, quite frankly, that I don't know if we're going to qualify. So I think we'll always be competitive with the Test cricket, T20 cricket. We have some of the best in the world. I think that's a different game. You can win today, lose tomorrow. But I think when it comes to the hard and fast nature of Test cricket, we'll always be competitive. I think we'll be more successful at home. We'll still be successful. But being right up there where we were 1 and 2 or 3, I think those days we're going to struggle. We won't see much of that anymore. I think we'll be middle of the pack. But whilst you're struggling, let's not forget the other team should be developing. I think Bangladesh is showing signs of the West Indies. They were showing signs of turning their whole cricket around, improving. Then there was a big change. I don't know. But we're battling out. We're going to fight it out in the second half now. We're going to fight it out in the bottom half.
Do you think the cessation of the coal pack agreement has come at the right time?
Yes, I think that's a good point. It wasn't really going to be happening. Finally, it did. But it's also what they bring to your first-class cricket. It's that competitiveness, that experience coming back in. I mean, our first-class, the average age and the standard there is the average age is very young. The experience, and I wanted to guys who just recently retired, and there's always those exceptional players, but it's the competitiveness of bowler 4 and 5. The youngster who's in his 5th game, 2nd season, and that standard, the standard is not an overall a very good one. But I think all international countries, teams battle with their first class because the guys don't play much first class anymore. In our day, we could go and play club cricket, and you could get good cricket and find your form. They don't know what club cricket is. They seldom play first class cricket.
No, but given what has happened in South African cricket, at least that excuse is out of the window now, that of losing talent due to people riding on the coal pack agreement.
Well, look, the good few of them, as I mentioned, like Abbott, he's extended his contract. I think he's at Hampshire. So it's just a question again. If you look at selection policies at first class level, but in saying that, we are now going to 15 teams next year, from 8 to 15 first class teams. So there's no doubt. So for the sake of transformation, more exposure of players, that's the way I see it. They've gone to 15. Whether they can afford it or not still remains to be seen. So yes, there's now going to be that opportunity. But I think they will put in that effort. Look, they're earning pounds. A guy like Abbott would earn more playing for Hampshire, guaranteed position, doing well. He's held his own. He's done well for them. Then playing, he was in and out of the South African side. He'd earn more playing for Hampshire than ultimately what if he was always available for South Africa. I mean, that's never really said, but that's a fact. So with the incentive of getting back into international cricket, they could try harder, they could put in the effort, particularly the bowlers. But it's a very good point. I never thought of it that way, but it's very true. I think it's come at a very good time for us. Let's just see what their commitment is.
Finally, what is the extent of your involvement in the MS Dhoni Academy?
No, it's very much so. WV, I've known Mahir Dewaka in the ICL days, and I was coach of Kolkata Tigers, and he was in the team. We always stayed in contact, and he always said, we must do something. And then last year in June said, look, this is where we are. Will you come on board as the director of coaching? So obviously I said yes. Look, it's a privilege and an honor for me to be involved, and you carry the name of MS Dhoni, a man that I certainly admire, one of the many millions of fans around the world. But it couldn't have come at a better time because I was really wanting to do something in cricket. I'm 53 now. I feel I'm at an age, funny enough, where I've got something to offer. I've been coaching kids for 20 years, even before I stopped playing. I've gained that experience, that knowledge and insight into, working much better with people and kids and that sort of thing. So most of my work is online. And then I've just got back from India. I was there for 3 weeks now. And so I've got a month to visit every year in India. But it'll be more. Our high performance center in Chennai at the Center for Sports Science there is an amazing facility. It's the best kept secret in cricket. It's world class. And so we've got tremendous amount of work to be done there. And then, it's just establishing our workbooks, our manuals, our coaching manuals, our philosophy of coaching, our e-learning platform, which we'll launch shortly, and just ensuring that our values, the way we coach, how we go about it, our standards, we'll probably be close to 100 academies by the end of the year. So it's a formidable challenge. But in today's world, I think it's very achievable with technology and communication and access to this sort of stuff being online. Now, I don't think anybody's mastered it yet. in terms of being online and how exactly it should work. But there are certainly learning management systems, tools which one can use now, and software where you can monitor players' progress very simply and very easily. So we want to work to a point, and it's here in MS's vision that they want to take cricket. They want to expose cricket to as many kids as possible. And, we create players' pathways. I think it's important for young cricketers to see the opportunity wherever you may be. That if I get there, if I get that exposure, someone's watching me, someone's tracking me, they've got my data, they know who I am, they know who I'm playing against, they've seen me play, the video's been requested, I'm earmarked, and then we create opportunities. And that's very close to their heart and what they want to see and achieve. Because I'm sure there must be so much more talent in India that hasn't been exposed.
I'm glad that you are imparting your knowledge and sharing your experiences. Now,
No, I'd certainly love to pick your brain, and congratulations on your book. And I know it's on Amazon, but that's wonderful. I think I truly believe more of our ex-players, experienced and knowledgeable, can share their experience and their wisdom and their advice. So congratulations, man, and look forward to the next couple.
oh, I'm not planned any at all. Anyway,
No,
Daryll, thanks a lot. Thanks for sparing your time and
great pleasure.
being a part of the show. I'll hopefully see you sometime in India soon.
I will make a point, most definitely, and hopefully you can come and share some of your knowledge with us. So I say to our guys, all my coaching staff, we must always remember we have to learn. We have to find a way every day to learn something new, because otherwise we'll fall behind. So we have to seek that knowledge and have that learning mindset. That's so important.
Daryll Cullinan sharing his thoughts about South African cricket and about the coal pack agreement and what exactly is the prevailing situation in terms of cricket, otherwise in South Africa. Until I catch up with you next time, stay safe, take care, and stay healthy. All right, Daryll, thanks a lot.
Pleasure, man.